the funeral for Palestinian Minister Abu Ain begins in Ramallah as Palestinians and Israelis disagree over the cause of his death. Two of Israel's centre-left parties joined forces uniting against current Premier Netanyahu ahead of a March snap election. Police haul away pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong after 2 months of rallies. And the number of homeless children in the US reaches an all-time high, attributed to high poverty rates and lack of affordable housing. Good afternoon, I'm Shachar Peled. You're watching i24 News. Thousands of Palestinians are gathering for the funeral of Palestinian Authority official Ziad Abu Ain in the West Bank city of Ramallah. He died en route to hospital following confrontations with the Israeli military during a protest. A Palestinian official said Abu Ain died from being struck, inhaling tear gas and not receiving prompt medical attention. But there are conflicting reports from Israeli medical sources who say the minister died of a heart attack. And this hour it's being reported that the Palestinian Authority has stopped security coordination with Israel over Abu Ain's death. This is something Authority President Abbas threatened yesterday. Let's hear that warning.
We were horrified to learn today of the death of Ziad Abu Ain. We were horrified by his death, or rather, his killing. What happened today is a crime in every sense of the word. And we will not remain silent or forgive.
Now, the Israeli Labour Party and former Justice Minister Tzipi Livni, Hatnu'ah Party, announced a merger ahead of the upcoming parliamentary elections planned for mid-March. Opinion polls forecasted that a united centre-left front would be the biggest party in the next parliament and the biggest challenge for current Premier Benjamin Netanyahu. Livni and Labour leader Isaac Herzog announced the merger in a press conference in Tel Aviv last night.
For the past 6 years, Benjamin Netanyahu had no solutions for the Israeli public. And I'm here tonight to tell you that the time has come for change. Through unity between the left parties for the Zionist camp.
The Likud party, which used to be my home, has turned Israel into an isolated country. This election is a historic chance for the Israeli public to win back their country.
And we're now joined in the studio by our diplomatic correspondent, Tal Shalev. Tal, the day after this dramatic announcement of this alliance, what is expected next?
Well, first of all, both Herzog and Livni had to spend their morning defending this new alliance. The alliance was no big surprise. The alliance itself had been in the making for a few days. But the big surprise last night was the fact that both of these people agreed to have a rotation on the leadership of this party and on the premiership. And while Livni, who is doing very poorly in the polls by herself, is definitely declared as a very surprising winner of this whole move, many are questioning Herzog's rationality and how reasonable was it for Herzog to give up his leadership, to give up half of his leadership for a party that doesn't really have a chance of passing the threshold by itself.
Well, he did say he's putting egos aside.
He did say he's putting egos aside, but some are criticizing Herzog that this has actually damaged his sense of leadership, his charisma, his image inside the Israeli public. But the interesting backlash is actually on the other camp, on the center-right camp, we might say. Yair Lapid, who was hoping that Livni would join him for a united list, is courting other parties, this other center-right parties, meaning Israel Beitenu of Avigdor Lieberman and Moshe Kahlon, the new party yesterday named Kulanu. The name was revealed yesterday. So Lapid is trying to convince each one of these players to join him in a united center-right front. At the moment, these two parties are denying any contact at all. But Lapid now, this morning he was speaking at a Jerusalem Post conference. Everyone was waiting for him to give some kind of headline, to give some kind of response to the new Livni-Herzog alliance. He didn't do that. He actually chose to focus on the diplomatic effort and on criticizing the Israeli Prime Minister on that front. Let's hear what he had to say.
Israel will not start the long and agonizing process of removing the isolated settlements, which will allow a separation without robust and long-lasting guarantees that any agreement signals the end of the conflict and the removal of threats from our borders.
Now, Tal, we're seeing a wave of recognition, a European recognition for a Palestinian state. Ireland next will see Denmark today. What are the reactions from Israel?
Well, at the moment, all of these moves are being perceived again and again as technical moves, only symbolic moves that do not have any influence on these Western government policies, the government's policies itself. And the Israeli response is well known. An Israeli official we speak to earlier today says unilateral moves are not helpful. They only help to strengthen the Palestinian refusal to go back to negotiations. So these are the talking points that are recurring again and again. But it's clear already that this wave is not only symbolic. It will have influence, and the big concern in Jerusalem these days is, of course, the UN Security Council bid. We're talking about two different proposals. One is the Palestinian one that is expected to move forward in the upcoming days. Saeb Erekat, the former chief Palestinian negotiator, did vow that the initiative will be brought to the UN Security Council by Christmas Eve, meaning in 2 weeks' time. But the more worrying initiative is the European initiative. There is a parallel European initiative led by France, Germany, and Britain to bring a different resolution to the UN Security Council. And Israel is very concerned from both of these initiatives. And that will be the center of the meeting that Netanyahu, a surprise, maybe urgent meeting, that Netanyahu will be holding in Rome on Monday with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Israel wants to ensure that the American veto on any initiative will be consolidated, but it's not clear that the Americans will be moving with that way of thought.
Yes, Tal Shalev, our diplomatic correspondent, thank you very much for this. We move now to Hong Kong, where police are now hauling away protesters from the main rallying site, part of the final push to reclaim the streets occupied by pro-democracy activists for over 2 months. Yoav Borowitz reports.
Hong Kong authorities started clearing the main pro-democracy protest site on Thursday after more than 2 months of demonstrations. The Admiralty site stood as a poignant symbol of calls for democracy, spurned by the government supporting Communist Party rulers in Beijing. Some protesters vowed to stay and accept arrest as a show of resistance to the government, which has refused to offer concessions on how the city's leader is elected.
We, of course, have to come and show ourselves. And if they want to arrest us, they can arrest us. Because we have resorted to civil disobedience, and we have all said we will take the consequence. So the consequence is arrest and being charged. We will accept that.
However, most protesters who stayed overnight for night-long celebrations and farewells appeared resigned to a retreat. Overall, the number of protesters has fallen to a few hundred from the tens of thousands who turned out in September. Student leaders have said they will remain at the Admiralty site as long as they can, but will not offer violent resistance to the operation. They also say their movement is not over. Summing it up, the 17-year-old Joshua Wong, one of the protest leaders, said, "The government wants to use police to clear the site, but don't forget, the clearance can't resolve political conflicts. It can't resolve society's dilemma."
Now, Time magazine has named the medics treating the Ebola epidemic its Person of the Year, paying tribute to their courage in treating the worst ever outbreak of the disease. Time magazine said the virus struck doctors and nurses in unprecedented numbers, wiping out a public health infrastructure that was weak in the first place. Health workers have been among the worst hit. And finally, protesters in Havana, Cuba marked Human Rights Day at a demonstration last night, with police arresting some 30 people. Among those detained were 16 members of the Ladies in White opposition group, made up of the wives and mothers of jailed activists. The UN General Assembly in 1950 declared December 10th Human Rights Day, rallying for a common standard of humane treatment for all people. And that's all for now. You can join us again in 20 minutes, and for anything else, visit our website i24news.tv, and also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. I'm Shachar Peled. Thank you very much for watching.